Welcome everyone to our webinar today, and I'm Rupali Tripathi, and today you are in the great session of uh, our Green-e Renewable Fuels Standard, where we are going to talk about the requirement related to the CAFOs, basically the biomethane from animal waste. And I am joined by my great colleague in this sector, Blakely from Southern Environmental Law Center. We will talk about our program a bit, but mainly about only this section where recently we updated our program and included these kind of feedstock, and now currently it's eligible, but of course it comes with some requirements and criterias, and the main plan is to discuss those today. Just to clear, after the presentation, there will be a Q&A. You all will have time to ask questions, but unfortunately, you cannot raise hand or ask in between. Just put your questions in Q&A. And at the end of the presentation, we will take all the questions. And first, I will pass it to Blakely. And after that, I will take it over and discuss the CAFO part of the standard. Blakely, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Thank you so much, Rupali. I'm Blakely Hildebrand. I'm a senior attorney at the Southern Environmental Law Center. I'm glad to be with you today. For those who do not know Southern Environmental Law Center, or SELC, thank you. First slide. We are a legal advocacy nonprofit organization. We're rooted in and focused on the South, and our mission is to protect clean air, clean water, a livable climate, special places, and wildlife throughout our region. We have offices in Virginia and North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Washington, D.C. And so if you are working in the South, you may have come across or worked with my colleagues in our other offices. I am based in our North Carolina office, and I'm coming to you from Durham today. I'm glad to be part of the conversation and have enjoyed working with CRS over the last several years, as they have done a lot of work to develop this standard. This work, serving as a consultant to them as they went through this process is kind of a continuation of our ongoing work to address pollution from industrial animal operations in the Southeast. You'll hear the term CAFO a lot in this presentation. CAFO is a shorthand. It means concentrated animal feeding operation. And so you'll hear us say that a few times throughout the presentation today. But I just want to provide a little bit of context for SELC's involvement in this work and kind of our key concerns that we addressed and made very clear to CRS as they were developing the standard. SELC has a long history of working in this space. The South has an enormous the animal ag industry has an enormous footprint in the Southeast. Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, where I am, are all top poultry producers in the country. North Carolina is also a top hog producer. The cattle and dairy industries also have a footprint here, but they're not nearly as prominent as in other regions of the country. Although they do exist here and are occasionally co-located with poultry and or hog operations. I am coming to this conversation and came to the discussions with CRS with a focus on North Carolina and the hog industry. I'm based in North Carolina, and a lot of our work in this space has been focused in southeastern North Carolina. And our organization began working with frontline communities or communities that live near these operations back in the 1990s, as it was becoming increasingly clear that industrial hog operations were exacting a very significant toll on water quality and public health in southeastern North Carolina, which is where the vast majority of these operations are located in the state. Our goal then, as it is now, is to ensure that communities living near these facilities have access to clean air, clean water, and a safe environment. And as part of that advocacy, we have pushed for the widespread adoption of cleaner, affordable, and effective waste management technology that reduces air pollution, water pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions from these facilities. So Rupali, could you go on to the next slide, please? In 2018, the hog and energy industries teamed up in North Carolina to begin a massive build out of swine waste to energy in North Carolina. And this was prompted by a lot of factors, including but not limited to our state renewable energy portfolio standard, which requires a very small portion of energy generated in North Carolina to be generated from swine waste. And as the biogas build out began and continued, unfortunately, we observed that the industry was not integrating effective and available cleaner waste management technology when installing digesters at these facilities. Digesters are the most common way to capture methane from hog waste pits for the purpose of producing biogas. And that's illustrated here in this slide. You'll see the cover over this hog waste pit, and you'll see that it's slightly inflated. And that cover is capturing the gases that are coming off of that hog waste pit. Through advocacy at the state and federal level and through litigation, we at SELC, in partnership with our community partners, have pushed for stronger protections for communities and for the environment and higher standards for biogas developers. And so when CRS approached us several years ago and asked about our thoughts on their developing standard, we were eager to provide some feedback. CRS went through a very extensive review process that Rupali will talk through in more detail soon. And when we were coming into this conversation, our priorities were really, or our concerns really centered around, we didn't want the standard from our vantage point to encourage the building of new CAFOs. We wanted to ensure that facilities that receive the certification were not adding harm to communities that live nearby the facilities. We also, as I said earlier, really wanted the standard to encourage the use of cleaner and effective waste management technology that would better protect the environment and public health. And finally, community engagement and transparency has also been very important to us and is something that we encouraged CRS to engage in as they develop this process. And we really appreciate CRS receiving all of that feedback. There was a lot of it, and they had these priorities in mind as they developed the standard. And I think it's important to note that to date, many incentives for digesters, like federal and state grants and cost share programs, have not required the use of cleaner technology to address a lot of the underlying pollution concerns from CAFOs that we all know very well. And so now that the standard is out, we're glad to see that it is a protective standard, and that that the standard that CRS has adopted here should minimize pollution to the environment and harm to communities that live nearby these facilities and downstream. And I just want to take just a few minutes, a very short few minutes, and talk just at a very high level about some of our concerns associated with animal agriculture. And I want to be clear that I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who's seen this industry expanding in North Carolina, and as someone who's working alongside community partners who live in what we call hog country in North Carolina. These are folks who are most impacted by hog operations and biogas development in North Carolina. I know that biogas development looks different in other parts of the country and with other forms of industrial animal agriculture like dairies or poultry. And I think I've said this a few times, our central concern with biogas development here is that it typically entrenches an already harmful system that is called the lagoon and spray field system, or a system whereby hog waste is captured in an open air lagoon and then sprayed onto nearby fields. And this system, before biogas development was even really a serious consideration here, when the system was created, this lagoon and spray field system that survives today, it's a primary waste management system that's used in North Carolina and elsewhere to manage enormous amounts of animal waste at these facilities. This system directly threatens human health, It threatens the environment, it threatens water quality, it threatens air quality. It's a source of harmful greenhouse gas emissions. And it also leads to a lot of public health harms. This pollution can have a very significant effect on human health, as documented by numerous studies. Most recently, the National Academy of Sciences attributed nearly 178 deaths to air pollution from animal operations in the top two highest producing counties in the country, which happen to be in North Carolina. And I think it's important also to note that Black North Carolinians and communities of color across the country tend to be located closer to these facilities and bear more of the pollution burden and public health burden than other communities who live farther away from these facilities. And I think it's also important to note that communities typically do not know about new or updated facilities, or new or updated CAFOs, or even when biogas development is on the horizon. Communities don't typically know about that until after it's happened. So as we were in discussions with CRS, we did want to emphasize the importance of community engagement and public notice for facilities that were seeking the certification. In North Carolina, installing a digester with no other significant updates to the facility can exacerbate the water and air pollution concerns that I've already flagged in my earlier comments, because of several changes that happen to the waste before it's land applied. And we've raised several concerns about the potential for increased methane emissions, increased air pollution, increased ammonia emissions, and increased risk of groundwater pollution when just digesters are installed on these facilities and no other additional technology is installed to address those other pollution concerns. We appreciate that CRS acknowledged these concerns and was willing to engage with us in a conversation as they were developing their standard. We encouraged them to reach out to more experts, which they did. We encouraged them to reach out to community organizations that are directly affected by biogas projects, which I know is part of their process. And we discussed with them technology that could be used to ensure that biogas could be produced more responsibly in a way that better protected the environment and our client and the environment, our communities, and also the climate. We appreciate their receptivity to our concerns and all the time that CRS took to really get things right here. And I will now pass it over to Rupali to get into the details of this standard and all that they did to reach the point that where they are today. So thank you, Rupali, and I'm happy to take questions later.
Thank you, Blakely. It was really, really great introduction from about CAFO and what are the harmful effects and also how it can be improved and it can be like part of our program, and SELC has been really helpful in that process. So thank you, Blakely, for that. And now I will move to our part of the presentation, basically what CRS has done and what all the steps we have followed and what are like some kind of summary on the requirements, and then I'll come to questions. But just so you know that as I told, like I work for Center for Resource Solutions, and just to give some intro about our organization, we are a non-profit organization. We have been around 27 years, and our main focus is creating policy and market solutions to advance sustainable energy. To that fact, we work on several work streams, and for example, we work on renewable energy and climate policy, where our main task is to give guidance on REC accounting or carbon accounting, and also how voluntary market and regulatory market might interact. And we have several projects, and recently one really, really good project under clean energy accounting project, one good study came out, and you all can go on our website and have a look. And that's actually defines the market-based accounting for renewable fuels. Basically, it outlines the creditable market tools that can be used to account direct emissions for various renewable fuels. It's very interesting study. You should all go and look at that. We are also into, of course, communication, education, etc. We have annual conferences. And the one very important topic, this is very famous work stream. We are well known for our Green-e certification program, basically for renewable electricity, carbon offsets, and also renewable fuels, which we are discussing today. I'll come to our renewable fuel standard, but still just some more intro on our Green-e certification program. We are actually global leader in renewable electricity certification. And in 2024, we actually certified around 140 million megawatt hours of US renewable electricity, which is enough to power 4 out of 5 US households for a month. So we are well known in Green-e energy space. We have put our feet in different areas like Green-e renewable fuels, as we'll be talking today. And so just a lot of people still get confused and ask me question, how are we different from tracking system? And we are different from tracking system. Actually, we are a third-party certification body working in voluntary market space. And tracking system is kind of online ledger system where certificates are tracking system issues tradable certificates, but we are kind of provide a layer on top of that, so it's supplemental to the tracking system. And we provide kind of assurance or that it's renewable and kind of security to the customer based on the several criteria set in our certification, with the help of not only CRS people, a separate Green-e governance board which has, like, for example, Blakely is there, SELC, UCS, and various other NGOs. Here are some benefits of the certification, and I have outlined a few, like, for example, the consumer creditability. And it's our program is leading third-party verification program. It is recognized by many businesses, also like gold standard for renewable energy sourcing, GHG protocol lead, etc. And it provides or protects against double counting, claiming, and creating confidence in clean energy purchases. Also, it's a kind of, it provides quality assurance to the consumer. And just as I mentioned, it's a stakeholder driven standards. It's not us who are just setting the rules and everyone has to follow. It's approved by an independent governance board, including important environmental NGOs as like NRDC, SCLC, UCS, and various others. And now under Green-e, I know a lot of you are aware of Green-e Energy, but Green-e Renewable Fuels program is also a wonderful program, and it's quite nascent market and relatively newer program. It's not as old as Green-e Energy. And this program, actually, the main objective of this program was started to accelerate the adoption of renewable natural gas and to in the voluntary market for renewable fuel credits or renewable thermal credits for, or both are same actually, if someone doesn't know. And just to ensure customers are protected in their purchases and ability to make claims. There are various kind of participant types they are allowed in this program, like renewable fuel producers, brokers, marketers, retailers, etc. We also offer both kind of products, basically bundled in the scenarios when delivery, like it's trucked or like raw food delivery directly to customers. And also we also offer unbundled product. It's very new program, as I was telling. We currently, there are two participants in the program, NU and STX. Apple was a former participant and not currently participating, but Apple has been in the program. We have several facilities in the program. It's not listed out and confidential yet, but just so to know that we also have various kind of facilities under this program. Today's task is not to discuss like all the requirements and verification type or verification process, etc. But if any one of you is interested, please contact us and I will put you in touch with our outreach team, and you can discuss the requirements to join the program or the verification process. I will just give a small summary and then I will move to the CAFO part of the program. And in our standard, currently we allow only biomethane from various waste sources. So under Green-e Renewable Fuel Program, currently we certify only biomethane related transactions. But in future, in 2026, we are planning to launch renewable hydrogen part of the standard as well. So it's going to have two fuel. Until now, there's only one fuel. And our standard covers only US and Canada currently. And there are many important parts of the standard. For example, regulatory surplus is required, no RINs or LCFS credits for the same decatherm sold in Green-e certified transition, and also double counting, double claiming, selling is not allowed. We have like various audit and verification process, and also various kind of disclosures. And as I told, I will not be discussing those details today. But here I have just put one slide to give a short summary of the requirements of our Green-e Renewable Fuel Program. So there are main four kind of requirements. As you can see, like production pathways, we also have requirements related to the carbon intensity and vintage. When it comes to facility age and location, actually we do not have any requirement. There is no production facility age requirement, no geographical restrictions currently in the standard, but some requirements on the vintage side and carbon intensity side, that your score should be lower than fossil natural gas. And today, as I'm telling, I'll be discussing the production pathways side. Currently, now we have CAFOs included in our program, but before that, we had like anaerobic digestion, wastewater, organic component of municipal solid waste, etc., various kind of waste included. And CAFOs were not eligible in Green-e Renewable Fuel Standard. CRS has been working for many years. Many of you will not believe, it's a really extensive process. It's very difficult to summarize in just some slides today. We have worked on it for several years to come up with something that will be good for environment, and so that CAFOs can be part of our program. So I think Blakely has given a good definition of CAFO, but I think when you go back and look in our standard, the requirement, etc., you will get to see that it's divided like under in three parts, like large CAFO, medium CAFOs, and small CAFOs. Just to make it clear, until now, some small CAFOs were not, when they are not considered CAFO, they were part of our program, but not like large CAFO and medium CAFOs. For all different animal sectors, there are various number of cattles, and it's listed here. And now then, this part or this extension of standard allows these kind of CAFO under our standard. So just for developing these requirements for CAFO, I have outlined some steps we followed basically to develop these standards. We worked on initial draft, like we set up some requirement with our board members, like Blakely was mentioning, and based on our in-house knowledge, with the help of in-house expertise, we did a lot of community outreach for the standards, received the inputs. After that, revising the draft, we also did extensive scientific review, and only then it was approved by our Green-e governance board. So these two steps looks very interesting. I'll just give some insight into it. So in the community input, I cannot tell the name of community we contacted, but we contacted various kind of communities and NGOs, and we have acquired or adapted most of the requirements they suggested, basically based on their feedback. Here I have listed some, but in the requirement you will see many in details. So one of the big things we received from community, that we should only allow existing CAFOs. We do not allow expansion of CAFOs or any other new CAFOs. And also, if CAFOs are existing near gas geology, they can be really harmful. for water, so we do not allow those. We have also banned spray field systems, as Blakely mentioned, how dangerous they could be. And we have some other requirements, like, for example, CNMP's requirement, comprehensive nutrient management plans, and also renewable fuels program is able to now incentivize existing CAFOs to capture methane. We actually feel that this will drastically improve the farm's environmental and community impacts with the way we have adapted or created our requirement. Many of you will be interested what kind of scientific review we have done. Again, as I tell, we spoke to a lot of agronomists. We spoke to nitrogen related or ammonia related emission expert, hydrogeologist, and hydrologist. So various kind of scientists provided input, and only after that we have framed these requirements. Now here I will move to CAFO requirements, but just to simplify it and make people understand, I'm just dividing it in 4 parts so that I can discuss the main requirements in each part. And there are 4 main kind of requirements. First, we have some general requirements. These are about the CAFO's age, size, or about the permit, and also disclosures. That's really important. We have taken care, like spoke to communities, and related to disclosures also we have several requirements. Then we have set some requirements related to the lagoon, like they should be covered, etc. We have set some requirements for the nitrogen control, how digestate should be applied to the soil, and at the end, in which scenario the nearby or the groundwater or the surface water should be tested, and what are the requirements for those. So moving on to general requirement, as I was telling, that we don't allow the expansion of existing CAFOs and construction of new CAFOs. Also, it's a big requirement that the facility must obtain and maintain a current NPDES permit, that is basically National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, even if this NPDES permit is not normally required by state or federal law. So in all scenarios, only those CAFOs can participate who maintain and obtain these kind of permits. Then there are different details, how should be the disclosures done to CRS, to community, etc. Big detailing is there in the draft about this section. And also facilities may not be located in areas with karst geologies. That is also one requirement in our standard. If I move to lagoon related environment, so lagoon, as we all know, it can be very harmful. Sometimes communities are really unhappy because of smell, air pollution, nitrogen pollution, and also making the soil less fertile or making the water dirty, and lot more things. So I think this we really did like dig into it and did a lot of outreach, research, etc. And we have set several requirements related to lagoon in our standard. So first is that spray field systems, that's basically the use of high pressure equipment to apply or dispose waste or effluent or digestate is not allowed under the standard. Also, like Blakely showed, some kind of waste, but like the big one, the covered one. And we have one of the requirements that the lagoons that are open to the air are not allowed, and facilities with lagoon for waste storage or digestate liquid that are within 100 feet of a 100-year floodplain as defined by FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Study, are not allowed. And a facility without a lagoon that is located in a 100-year floodplain must demonstrate that stored waste will not be impacted or breached by flooding. And then again, any incident of breach, we have set some requirements on that breach or overflow within the past 5 years should be disclosed, and proper steps should be taken, and that can be read in the standard as well. And very important one, that all lagoons must be covered. Lagoons must be properly sealed to ensure that there are no gases are being emitted. And if CRS, suppose someone has joined the program and CRS receives complaints or becomes aware of odors or any other issues, we will require the facility to perform then air monitoring or many other corrective activities to prevent these kind of emissions, etc. As I was telling, we have like some kind of nitrogen control or related requirement also. Then again, there are some, it's kind of so that nitrogen doesn't get into the soil or water, etc. We have several other requirements that all lagoons that contain manure must be synthetically lined so that it doesn't make water dirty. And digestate applications in the fall or winter after crops have been harvested are not permitted, so that there is not like extra nitrogen into the soil and spoiling the soil. And all fields must be sampled prior to the digestate application, just to make sure to limit the application and we are not putting the overdose of digestate into the soil. And the the background concentration of nitrogen in the fields must not exceed 15 milligram nitrogen per kg in any 1 foot interval from 0 to 3 feet. And also when there are some facilities with tile drainage system, drain tiles or other subsurface drain networks, they are ineligible for digestate applications. Also, one very interesting, when facility is allowed to put digestate, for example, they have like line, they follow all other criterias, and in if they are allowed, and only if we do the soil testing on the upper top feet, and it should be done before joining the CRS program. And nitrogen is more than 15 milligram nitrogen per kg, then they need to follow these kind of digestate application. So this is very important. This we adapted actually from Washington State's regulation on manure application for dairy farms, and it was recommended to us by one hydrogeologist that worked closely with CAFOs, that this will provide a very, very good set up for not spoiling the soil with extra digestate application. And here you can see, if you have nitrogen more than 15 milligram nitrogen per kg, then year by year how much digestate you can apply in the soil. Basically less than 15, you can apply 100% of agronomic rate, there's no issue. But if you have more than 15 to 25, then 25 to this, you have to follow this Washington State's regulation table, and digestate application should be done based on this table. And just to know at the end, if nitrogen is more than 45 milligram per kg, then digestate application, again, it is not allowed. So for all kind of digestate application, this should be strictly followed. And here then again, if people want explanation, I have put something like how, if until 3 years you are still falling in this category and your nitrogen is not improved in the soil, then you need to split your application basically in 2 different seasons, in fall and spring. And that's for all different criterias. And again, um, over 45 you cannot apply any digestate at all. So I think today what I have shown, it's basically the summary, but everyone can go look at our standard. It's available online, and see the draft, and come to us, and we'll be very happy to discuss. And I think that's the end of all the requirements we have put. Oh, I just followed one very important requirement before ending the nitrogen requirement. We have also put some requirement on surface water and groundwater testing. But just to make it clear, it's not like every facility has to test surface water and groundwater. We have set some scenarios in our standard that the surface water has to be tested quarterly only if a facility is within 300 feet of surface water. Same in the groundwater has to be tested quarterly if any facility falls in any of these 4 categories. For example, if facility is situated near within 100 feet of a floodplain, or within 5 miles of a drinking well, or like these all 4 scenarios, if any one of these one facility meets, then they need to do the groundwater testing. And here is the testing pollutant and nutrient list. Like we have put some testing for nitrogen, nitrite, Then again, nitrite plus nitrate, ammonia, phosphorus, TSS suspended solids, and of course, one important part of soil testing, water testing is E. coli, basically the fecal coliform. So these are the requirements for the testing. Again, we discuss this with lot of water quality experts, and then we have come into it. Coming to the verification part, how the testing should be done. Now CRS is working on the document, like who can do the testing. It's not like any CAFO can decide, okay, we will get this testing done by this body. We are going to, because that was also one important part of our community input, we are going to suggest some companies you can get your testing done only by those companies, basically. So these are the requirements. I'm very excited that CRS has included now CAFOs as part of eligible waste to biomethane in our Green-e Renewable Fuel Standard. And I hope that a lot of people, they want to follow these requirements or improve their CAFOs. If lagoons are not covered, they're looking to cover them and be part of this program, and be part of decarbonizing uh, journey what we all have been taking. Just to tell one more time that, as I told uh, briefly before, that we are also going to expand our standard. It's and going we are going to include renewable hydrogen in it. First draft was already out. We have received the comment, and we are planning to put now the second draft in uh, next month in December 2025. If anyone wants to join the list and is interested, please contact me at this email, or my colleague Matt for this. Thank you, everyone. I'll be very happy to take questions now, and I will just see maybe there are some questions in the chat. If not, I can pause for few seconds if you all want to write your questions, and then Blakely and I, we both will be available to answer your questions. Just to remind, raising hand doesn't work. You have to write your question in the chat. And you can find the chat like at the bottom center. Okay, I think I can see some questions now already, and I will try to read that. Any examples of facilities going through the additional process that's making additional studies, adjustments based on the standard? Actually, as I am telling, we just launched it and we have included it. I do not know. Some facilities they're interested, and CAFOs, we are talking to them, and hopefully maybe some people, they're really aware and they're already following many of these requirements. It's not like you always need to make changes. So I feel maybe some facilities, they all already follow many of these requirements. Maybe we just need to discuss if they need to do something additional or not. But until now, there is no any facility which I can tell. But maybe in future, we are already in touch with a lot of people, or some marketers for CAFOs, etc. There's one more question from Jeremy. I'm trying to understand what is going on. Has CRS now allowed facilities with CAFOs that have been participating under the NC REST swine regs set aside, or that none of once is there? I don't know if I understood the question correctly, but I think CAFOs are maybe currently allowed in LCFS program or some other federal or state programs. but CAFOs were not allowed under standard, as Blakely was telling what are the negatives of CAFOs to the environment. So they were not allowed and they were not part of our standard until now. We allowed biomethane from various different sources, but not from the animal waste, or you can say the large CAFOs or medium CAFOs. We recently developed these set of criterias or requirements, and now CAFOs are allowed under our program. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm happy to
if I could just jump in on that, Jeremy, I'm not sure if you were asking about the North Carolina Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. I'm not sure if that's what you mean by NCRETS, but that is a completely separate program that is managed by the North Carolina Utilities Commission that has been in place since the mid-2000s. So I think it's a very separate process and standard.
Thank you, Blakely. Yes, I think you're right, Jeremy.
So I might be able to, so Jeremy, so there's a lot of complicated background and context here, but I will do my best to sort through it. If I'm understanding your question, it is there overlap between CAFOs, the CRS, Green-e Standard, and the North Carolina Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard in terms of performance? There are no, the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards is only focused on production and generation of energy from swine waste. It has, you know, as far as I understand, the North Carolina Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard is kind of agnostic in terms of the animal waste technology that's used, you know, whether it's digesters or some other type of technology, and there aren't standards associated with the production or animal waste management system to qualify for the North Carolina Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. There is a moratorium on new and expanded hog operations in North Carolina, unless a new or expanded hog operation can meet certain standards. And so that might be what you're referring to here. Those standards are separate from the North Carolina Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, which again is managed by and overseen by the North Carolina Utilities Commission. New and expanded hog operations have to go through a different permitting process through the state environmental agency. And those standards are different, but there is certainly some overlap between the North Carolina standards for new and expanded hog operations and the Green-e standards that Rupali just walked through.
Thank you, Blakely, for explaining this North Carolina Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. I didn't have much idea about that. So I think I have a new question from Charles, and he's asking, will these requirements also apply to the Green-e Renewable Energy Standard for Green-e RECs? So I must say that it will be applied for CAFOs, but of course the verification will be a bit different. Like, since we are talking about RECs, so maybe you just need to meet it, but it's not like we need a lot of audits, verification, etc. So, and it will also be updated. I do not know if it's already out, the updated Green-e Energy Standard, but we have been discussing it internally, and soon it will be out. So then you will get to see what all we have updated there for CAFOs, but you need to meet some of these criteria for sure. Maybe not that strict for verification, but requirements are there. And Jeremy has asked some questions. Maybe Blakely, you'd like to take.
Yeah, so Jeremy, I mean, Rupali knows the standard inside and out, and is much more familiar with it and comfortable with the nuts and bolts of it than I am. But you know, certainly if there is a project that meets the state standard in North Carolina, and the CRS standard, then it sounds like it could be a candidate for certification. So I think your understanding is correct, Jeremy, is what I'm trying to say.